you said to me, airline apps, I think only lets you send out one at a time without I get pay more money or something. I'm like, no, do not do not accept that. Hold on, I'll get you a phone number. So I quickly made some phone calls and I was like, sent you a text message immediately. No, you get your application in today because I knew your history, I knew your father's history, and I knew your goal. And your goal is to at some point follow in his footsteps and honor him by working for the same carrier, which is Legacy Airlines. And so within 24 hours, you text me back, hey, guess what?
Got an interview.
So yeah. How did that process work? How fast did that all happen from the time that I reached out to you with, here, call this number, send this email, to the time you are today, I guess I should say?
So I want to say, so when we first started talking, I was interviewing for this company called AirShare. They're kind of like a Wheels Up, just a smaller version of it. And they were based out of Kansas City. Subsequently, I didn't get that job, and I just kind of kept my nose to the grindstone and flying. I applied to Sandpiper and the gold standard regional carrier, if you will. And within, I'm trying to think, within, Sandpiper called me back within a day and a half, and Gold Standard called me back within about a week. And I interviewed with both of them, and I received offers from both of them. Because I'm choosing to go with Sandpiper, I'll kind of continue that story rather than the Gold Standard story. So they interviewed me, or they called me up and said, hey, love to interview you. We'll fly you out to Texas, and you can interview at Sandpiper headquarters. And it's basically a full day interview process. And so got out there the night before, flew me on Legacy Airlines out to DFW, and got into a hotel, woke up the next morning, caught the van over to Sandpiper HQ. Was there with, I want to say like 6 or 7 different individuals, all from varying backgrounds and times. And at the time, I was only at about 1,300 hours. But because the industry is how it is right now and they're hurting, they're interviewing you at 1,300, 1,200 hours, because they know that you're obviously going to get that 1,500, and basically they want the ball rolling almost instantaneously. So when 1,500 comes around, you're pretty much like rolling right in with them.
Yeah.
So, and I interviewed, I did, I will plug one website. It is, God, now I can't even remember what it is. The interview prep website that I went to, I paid the $45 or $50 for the month. They basically go through every airline of like interview questions and jet chart questions and what you're going to look for and everything like that. Now I can't even think of what it is. But I will have to plug them, and I'll look it up and let you know.
Show notes as well.
Yeah. But their questions were pretty much spot on to what was being asked in the interviews. You get the typical tell me a time wins. But the one areas that they did focus on that I had no knowledge was the JEP charts area. Because as a normal flight instructor, right, we're using the government plates and, using ForeFlight, stuff like that, that it's with it. So the JEP charts are obviously something new to most of us. And that's kind of where they asked a lot of their questions, because that's what we're going to be using when we get to the airlines. Mm-hmm. Ask some technical questions here and there, obviously some background HR questions. And then went up and waited for lunch, and after lunch and everything like that, I was the first name to be called out of the room, right? Because you basically go up to this like little conference room when you first get there. You bring all your stuff up there, bags and everything, and I was the first one to be called out. And they said, "Bring your stuff with you." And I went, kind of like let down, like, okay, well, clearly I didn't get didn't get the job because they're having me bring all my stuff. Why would they, have me not bring my stuff if I wasn't going to get the job? And we were walking down the stairs, talking with the guy, kind of in this like kind of down attitude. And instead of walking out the front door, we hooked a right down the hallway, and they pulled me into a room and gave me the conditional letter.
Nice.
So, fingerprinted, peed in the cup, and came back home.
And so you never had to do any kind of simulator evaluation?
Nope.
Yeah, I've heard this, that they forego this. And now, Roger, when you were at the ExpressJet formerly, you had to do the simulator event, and then you and I both applied to, well, I don't know if you want to call it what it is, but we both applied to SkyWest back in 2006. Yeah, and we flew out together, had to get our own hotel rooms, had to get our own flights, had to go out to Denver and show up for this interview. And the interview back then was very similar. We sat in a big conference room, and there's always the one or two outliers. One guy came. Do you remember that first guy that came in, and he was wearing like a Hawaiian shirt and like unbuttoned and jeans and flip flops?
Everybody blocked that whole thing from my memory.
Yeah, we were all in there in suits. Here we are, 20-somethings and 30-somethings. We're all in suits, and this guy comes in a Hawaiian shirt with sunglasses and flip flops, and he's like, "Sup, man?" Like he was asked to go home, but
I would hope he was asked to go home.
This isn't like Virgin America, what used to be Virgin America. We can say that now that they're no longer in existence, but those. I remember going for interviews there. The gouge was, don't wear a tie. If you wear a tie, they're going to cut it off you. Because they just wanted to be different. They wanted to be hip and cool, and that's what they wanted to reflect. So they knew you read the gouge if you showed up with a casual, business casual, with a shirt that's unbuttoned at the top, no tie, and relaxed. So it's important, as you mentioned, doing the interview prep and reading the gouges out there that are available to most people. If you have an internet connection, there's no reason why you can't be prepared to go for your interview. But it was the same for Roger and I. And after the HR interview, then there was the technical interview. We took I think it was a 50-question test or something like that for the ATP. They were asking you about tare weights and pallet sizes and all kinds of stuff. Like, this is a regional flying CRJs, right? I'm just checking. Okay. So, and then after that, if you went and did your simulator evaluation, and I remember mine was in a Frasca portable trailer.
It was a Frasca thing.
Yeah, it was like a food truck, and I was like, okay, what kind of airplane is this that we're flying? And then he told me, and I don't even remember what it was. I'm like, okay, well, so give me some speeds here, and gear, maximum gear. Speeds and flap speeds. Oh, no, don't worry about any of that stuff. That's not evaluating you on. It was not a good experience for me, Roger. I won't speak for you, but let's just say neither of us got invited to return.
Neither of us got invited to join SkyWest that year.
Yeah. I said, thanks for coming in. You can try again in 6 months. And I applied at the Sandpiper as soon as we got back. And that was Friday night at around 10 o'clock at night. I got online. Airline Apps was the place to be to do that. And then Saturday morning, I got a phone call from Dallas, Texas. I'm like, what's this? Hi, we got your we got your resume. You want to come in for an interview? We'd like to fly you out tomorrow. We'll pay for the flight. Oh, okay. That was Sunday. I checked into the hotel, and Monday morning hopped on the van and brought all my stuff with me and went to their HQ, which is a different location back then, but now they're a nice new independent location. And did the same kind of interview you did, but it was a 2-day event. And if you passed the first day, on the second day, they asked you to come back. They gave you another hotel room. And then you would sit in the Fokker simulator, full motion simulator. Same thing. They just wanted to see that you could fly the airplane using digital displays. And as long as you could do that, you were golden. So it sounds like in today's marketplace, a lot of that technical evaluation has been put aside because of the need for pilots in the industry. Now, your interview at Sandpiper, what was the hardest question they asked you?
Trying to find the takeoff distance on a jet chart.
Oh,
the other questions were, I mean, they were simplistic, advanced questions, right? Like, how does the basic theory of a jet engine work? Like, what's the, what can you get off of the bleed air? What can that run for you? How, like I said, super basic questions for the advanced stuff. And then like the jet charts was kind of the more difficult questions because, clearly not seeing any of that stuff other than reading the gouge that I got, that was where I struggled. But yeah. The guy kind of, he asked me one question and I couldn't find out where the answer was. So he asked me a different question, which ended up drawing me towards where the answer to the previous question was. And then he asked me that question again, and I answered that question.
Oh, okay. So and I could tell you this, when times are good, and the times have been good for many years now, even throughout the whole COVID thing, they really do want you there. They took, if it's a company that paid to get you on, non-revved you out to or positive spaced you, actually, not out to their facility, put you up in a hotel, they want you there. At that, if they've called you for an interview, it's your job to lose. The job is yours. That is the attitude. And I can tell you this, if Kyle was here, he'd tell you the same thing. By the time they call you in for an interview, the job is yours and it's yours to lose. And the only way you're going to lose it is to go unprepared, have the wrong attitude, or just lack the knowledge that is the basic knowledge that you're supposed to have at that point.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
I'm going to butt in and say that I somewhat disagree, actually.
Oh, yeah?
This coming from a guy that's gone through three interviews now that I have not been offered the job. You kind of brought up SkyWest in your whole, Alex, about the theory of a jet engine. I don't really remember a lot about the initial SkyWest interview, which was the first interview that I went to, that I had. Obviously, Tony was just talking about that. I remember I was kind of in trouble at that interview when they asked me to draw a jet engine. Now, not only number one, can I not draw? Number two, I was like, you do realize that I'm flying a Cessna 172. Like, I don't really know. Now, I guess my question, does that make me unprepared? Is that going to make me ill-prepared or unprepared to then go fly for SkyWest Airlines? And I guess maybe now, even then, I have the self-confidence in myself to say that, I don't think that that's a great indicator about, the job being mine to lose. To a certain degree, I think that is the truth. But it's much more complex than that. And so I can say for all the people that are out there that either have gone through this process and these two blokes here have made you feel like crap. I've been through it. I can count 3 at least that I have interviewed for and I did not get the job. And it's also a kind of an element of timing as well. Tony and I were just talking about the SkyWest interview. I don't think that was being unprepared. I think that at that point in time, we were a little less experienced than some of the other people that were in there, and they didn't need to take the amount of people that they do now. I think that if Tony and I went back with the exact same experience and went and interviewed at any regional right now, that we would probably both be hired, even if we gave the exact same answers. It's just that things are different depending on when you happen to go for your interview. And it's kind of funny just reliving some of that. Tony came back. If you want to look at it's a single event where our paths diverged in this industry. It's he went back and he tried again and applied at Sandpiper, and I went the path less traveled. You can argue one way or another whether that was good or not, but it's just it's luck of the draw. I got furloughed from ExpressJet. I interviewed at another regional, Compass, which I don't think they're around. I think COVID did them in as well.
Yep.
I interviewed at Compass, and I did not get that job, and that was coming straight out of ExpressJet. And I've also interviewed at Frontier. I interviewed at Frontier, and I did not get that job. Now I can make some fairly educated guesses as to why, but I don't really think it was because it was unprepared. It was unprepared, or that that it was my job that I lost. Although to some degree the Compass might have been true. I probably went in just thinking I was going to get that job. But I think I think it's much more complex than just because you get an interview. These companies hire people knowing they're not going to hire everybody, and that's where I kind of diverge a little bit from your guys' outlook. Is that most of these companies, they know that they're not going to hire 100% of the people that come through. And so, I mean, take heart. Most companies encourage you to apply 6 months. Most people, Southwest being a huge example of this, today might be a little bit different, but several years ago when everyone wanted to go to SkyWest, they encourage you to come back, and they would flat out tell you that your chances of actually getting the job offer the second, and sometimes for some people, even the third time around, are that much greater. Don't lose heart. It's, sometimes, yes, we make mistakes, and sometimes, yes, it is our fault. And sometimes, yes, we lose the job on our own, but not all the time. Take heart. There is a job out there, even if it's 6 months, and it's not always you and your shortcomings, if you will.
Well, and I thank you for saying that, Roger. I didn't mean to make it sound like, if you don't get the job, it's because you weren't prepared. But like we said, it is very cyclical, this industry. And when you and I both went to SkyWest and both got turned down letters, I don't think it was
very different.
I don't think it was because you and I weren't prepared. I think with our experience, we were above and beyond prepared. But we later found out that they were looking for people with turbine time. They were looking for
because it was just a different time back then. Is that they had the amount of people that they had to choose from, the amount of slots that they had to fill, and the amount of people that they had to choose from to fill those slots was a much different dynamic in the supply and demand world than it is now.
Yeah, and the way the market is right now, at the time of this broadcast, they're going to be hiring not just at the regional level, but at the legacy carrier and mainline airlines. What they're talking thousands every year, and that means, it's a cyclical industry. They're going to kind of lower their standards because they need to fill whatever quota they have put on themselves. And if you go in, if you get interviewed, I do think that their chances are good if you go prepared and you have the experience that they're looking for and you have the right attitude. Sometimes the attitude is more important than your knowledge.
And that's, in the end, that's why I don't think I got that Compass job, because I think that I went in, I was young and stupid at that point in time, and I just kind of had that assumption that I was going to get this, I had this preferential interview. I had just gotten furloughed. We know that he can pass 121. And I think that probably showed it at the tender age of 24, 25, I think I was at the time. The attitude is huge.
Yeah. If they see you have a good attitude, so you might get a couple questions wrong when looking at a JEP chart that you don't normally use because you're using NOS charts or the National Aviation charts or whatever, their system charts. I think your chances are good right now with aviation and with airline jobs.